Welcome to Camnet TV Main News. I am Precious Mzea Sakaleji. The headlines. The Teaching Service Commission reported to the Anti-Corruption Commission. PEP President TEMBO charges that the police is still unprofessional under the UPND. Block makers puzzled over the anticipated hike in cement prices. And in international news, Congolese opposition SNUBS government backed dialogue. And in sports, LUSAKA Province Zone 2 2021-2022 season under-19 league games engulfed in age cheating. Join me with the details after this commercial.
We still need more players, yes, because we need to balance the team. We need to have maybe on one position 3 or 4 players.
The third Camnet Stars football trial is on. This time, Camnet Stars are looking for young, talented and skilled soccer players between the age of 18 and 20 years old. Start your lucrative football career in Europe this July. If you know you are one of Zambia's best gifted soccer players, don't waste your time. On Sunday, the 13th March 2022, there will be trials for professional soccer stars. Venue, Kablonga Boys Secondary School grounds. Time, registration 13 hours. Kick-off 14 hours. 100 kwacha non-refundable shall be paid and your birth records must be produced upon registration. Camnet Stars, setting football standards for international market.
And other main news in detail. President Hakainde Hichilema Thursday afternoon hosted lunch for veteran politicians and gallant freedom fighters, among them Vernon Mwanga, Wilted J. Piri, Matthias Ngalande and Dante Saunders. President Hichilema says the UPND administration is inspired by their wisdom and how vested they are with current affairs. President Hichilema is also impressed with the veterans' passion on the need to unite the country and harness their diversities from different communities and cultures. The head of state also told the veterans of his government's continued effort to rebuild and reconnect the economy, reunite the people, and ensure that the rule of law is followed.
Here for, you see, 4 months we spent just understanding where the problems came from, what was tripping the country. I think we now have a full understanding, and I believe you can't solve problems you don't understand.
However, we have to understand
the full understanding, so that's why we focus on dismantling those problems, especially public expenditure, runaway position, which really gripped our country very bad. So we are in the process of also reintroducing our country back in the League of Nations, the UN, SADC, African Union, and the European Union, the Arab world. I think we've now done all of that. Now we're busy focusing on projects, programs to open up the economy.
For you to host lunch in our honor, in recognition of the role that a lot of our colleagues, we all played during the struggle for independence. We are representing a lot of colleagues who are in the struggle with us. Most of them are no more, but the few that they are, they live in very distant places. So we are representing all of them.
Indeed.
And to say to you, Mr. President, that we are proud of the work that you are doing.
The Block Makers Association of Zambia has urged the United Party for National Development to urgently realize its promise of creating industries as one way of ensuring availability of diverse raw materials in the country. In an interview, Association President Mr. Elias Piri has also urged cement manufacturing companies to reconsider hiking cement prices following the scarcity of gypsum, which is a major raw material in the making of cement, stating that business in the sector is already slow. Cement manufacturing companies are anticipating a hike in cement prices following revelation that the major raw material, gypsum, has run out in Zambia.
Zambia's economy has seen its ups and downs based on internal and external factors, which has been raising anxiety among citizens who are hoping for nothing but stability. Arising from the fluctuating kwacha against the United States dollar and changes on the international market, essential commodities like fuel have seen a recent hike. Cement manufacturers in the industry have also expressed fears of potential hikes in cement prices following a shortage of gypsum, which is a raw material used in the manufacturing of cement. Among the main sources of gypsum are mining and other industrial processes. Chambishi Metals, which was one of the major sources of this raw material, was put on maintenance in January 2020 and has remained unoperational till date. Cement manufacturers have come on board, expressing that gypsum has diminished from the slash dump of the said Chambishi Metals, hence causing them to source the raw material from neighboring countries. The Block Makers Association of Zambia has come on board, urging government to prioritize the creating of industries to ensure that commodity prices in the country are not hiked due to raw materials which can be easily sourced locally. Association President Mr. Elias Piri was speaking to Camnet News.
Let them reopen Chambeshi and let them also open other industries. You know, they were talking of creating more jobs for the youth and the rest. We need more industries to be opened, even the cement industry itself, like what they've done with the product of this fertilizer. They are putting up a plant to manufacture fertilizer so that the prices of fertilizer could be lowered. They could be doing the same in the cement industry. Let them bring other industries, let them make other industries, government industries, for example, they should be led by the National Service so that they create more jobs for the country.
He has also appealed to cement producers to consider maintaining cement prices.
Business is quite low at the moment, you know. There is no money in the economy. The economy is bleeding. There is no money, as you may wish to know. The government institutions are busy looking for the hidden money. People have no money in their pockets. And for business like blocks, they've stopped building. People have no money. The raw material that they are saying is running out of the country and they'll be importing it from some countries like Congo. What I would like to appeal to them is that at times, you know, it's not all the time that you can be making huge profits. Sometimes as manufacturers, so at times when some raw products that they use to manufacture cement and other things, when they go up, sometimes these manufacturers, what they should do is they should bear the cost to save the customers, to save the clients. Because at the moment, if they are talking of increment on cement, that's wrong timing. You know, cement is the product that we use mostly in making blocks and other building materials. And these things at the moment, there's no business, there's no money in the economy.
Currently, a bag of cement is selling between 135 kwacha and 145 kwacha, which the association says is already too high. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
The state has described as unnecessary the application for Lusaka-based lawyer Namwene Piri, alleged to have attempted to commit suicide and administered the poisonous substance to her son, who died admitted to a mental health facility because she is already warded at Chinama Hospital. The state has also opposed the application for the High Court to appoint her sister, Miss Esther Piri Ngambi, as the supporter while she is receiving care at the mental facility. Last month, Ms. Ngambi applied to the High Court to have Ms. Piri admitted to a mental health facility, claiming that her sister risks harming herself again.
After an alleged attempt of suicide and an application that she be admitted to a mental health facility because she is already wounded, government described as unnecessary the application for a Lusaka-based lawyer, Namwene Piri, filed before court. On February 15th, Namweni Piri is alleged to have administered poison on a 2-year-old son and later took the said poison as well, but she did survive and was taken ill at Levi Mwanawasa Hospital while under police guard. This left her biological sister Esther Piri Ngambi filed an affidavit, or rather an application, before the Lusaka High Court requesting that her sister be admitted to a mental health facility after she allegedly killed her son and attempted suicide. Ms. Ngambi wants an order of the court that her sister be accorded the full privacy, dignity and confidentiality as to her person, state of health and her personal information, as she is entitled under the law for the duration that she is admitted to a mental health facility. However, in response to this application that was filed before court last week, the state submits that the court has no authority to order for the patient to be admitted to a mental health facility in the absence of criminal proceedings. According to an opposition to summons for an interim order of appointment to support and an interim order for admission to a mental health facility, State Advocates Chalo Hambai states that Ms. Piri was admitted to the mental health facility in the absence of criminal proceedings, and so far there are no criminal proceedings against her. The state has since urged the court not to grant Ms. Ngambi's application to be the supporter of her sister, Ms. Piri, because there is no documentation that relates to the state of the patient or the nature of the mental illness that has resulted in the absence of the legal capacity of the patient. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Chawama constituency member of parliament Tasila Lungu has accused Lusaka businessman Chitambala Mwewa in the Lusaka High Court of trying to delay the court process. This is in a matter in which the lawmaker has sued Mr. Mwewa and 3 others, demanding damages for alleging that she was being investigated for suspicious purchase of a bank worth 300 million kwacha. Ms. Lungu, through her lawyer, has told the court that Mr. Mwewa was served with court documents, hence his submission that he was not served is meant to delay the court process, hence his application should be dismissed.
The legal battle between Lusaka's Chawama constituency lawmaker Tasila Lungu and social media blogger Chitambala Mwewa has tightened before the Lusaka High Court, with the lawmaker through her advocacy informing the court that the court documents were saved on Mr. Chitambala, hence his application to set aside originating process for irregularities is a making of trying to delay the court process. This is in a matter where Chawama area member of parliament Tasila Lungu has sued Mr. Mwewa, a named media local station, and 2 others in the Lusaka High Court, demanding damages for alleging that she was being investigated for suspicious purchase of a bank worth 300 million kwacha. The lawmaker wants the court to order the said 4 defendants to pay her damages and retraction of the said statements. She had earlier submitted before court that the 4 defendants published a statement that she was the former councillor who was being investigated for the said allegation of a bank, despite the Anti-Corruption Commission (SCC) not mentioning any name at its briefing held on September 15, 2021. Now, in her affidavit in opposition to affidavit in support of summons to set aside originating process for irregularity, she says Mr. Chitambala was saved with all the necessary court process to adequately respond to her claims through his lawyers, and they did make a phone call to one of her lawyers confirming that they did receive the said court documents. She submits that the court has the power to dismiss his application, as his application has standing on nothing and merely made to delay the matter, and further that the said application should be dismissed in its totality. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
In other news, Patriots for Economic Progress leader Sean TEMBO has charged that the Zambia police is the same under the United Party for National Development, hence the need for serious reforms. Mr. TEMBO believes that the police is just as it was under the Patriotic Front administration by allegedly waiting for instructions in order to act on issues. He says the police must be free from political influence in order to gain the confidence of the people. The opposition leader has since advised President Hakainde Hichilema to set the tone on which direction he wants the Zambia police to go.
The Zambia Police Service is a body mandated to safeguard life and property, provide security and maintain law and order. However, in the past, the service had fallen short of fulfilling its responsibility. Managing political events, for instance, proved to be a disastrous undertaking as unarmed citizens ended up being killed by those charged with the responsibility to protect them. For clarity, people like Nsamachi Pioka, Joseph Kaunda, Frank Mugala are among those whose life was cut short by trigger-happy police officers defying the right to life with impunity. Now, with the United Party for National Development, UPND, in office, Republican President Hakainde Hichilema has affirmed commitment to uphold the rule of law and ensure professionalism in the police service. And to help him achieve that, he made some changes in the police service and appointed Mr. Lemi Kajova to bring sanity in the sector. Some changes have been seen. For instance, in the past, protests attracted beatings and tear gassing. But now, doctors...
When people want power, they come and campaign different fake campaign promises. Yes. Now it's time to deliver. They say they've been in government for less than 6 months, and yet we've got trips, we've got people with non-essential workers being employed.
Retirees.
When are we going to be paid? And the supplementary budget, when is it going to be approved? Your Excellency.
Teachers.
To our surprise, up to now, we are failing to understand why the Minister of Education is failing to put us on payroll.
Students, among others, have been able to hold protests in peace.
From the school education and other schools have been closed. Why? Because the lecturers are on the gospel. They are protesting because of non-payment of salaries and their gratuities. So all we are appealing to is that the government should come on board, pay our lecturers so that learning can proceed as it is supposed to be.
But Patriots for Economic Progress leader TEMBO has charged that nothing has changed.
Police have not really reformed, in fact, for the past 20 or so years. The way the police used to be manipulated and the way they used to serve the interests of the then ruling MMD is the same manner in which the police were manipulated and were serving the interests of the then PF, government. And it's the same way that the police have now been manipulated and have been made to serve the interests of the now ruling UPND administration. So there has been no change whatsoever. And, if you were to ask me what I would attribute that to, my take would be that it is because of the political environment in which they operate. And there is that silent intimidation of the police by the political leadership.
Mr. TEMBO believes that the police is still getting instructions from politicians. He says the head of state must set the tone on which direction he wants the Zambia police to go.
The reforms that need to be made should be on the side of the political leadership. It all starts with the president himself, the tone he sets among his ministers, whether it is acceptable for his ministers to intimidate law enforcement agencies or not. Once a president sets that tone, then the ministers will act accordingly, and the law enforcement agencies will respond accordingly. So it all comes down. That's why they say the buck stops with the president. It's all about the acceptable tone which the president wants to set.
Well, democracy is a composition of opinions, and that is the view of Mr. TEMBO. But what is your take on the Zambia police? Patrick Soko, Camnet News in Lusaka.
The United Party for National Development senior member Chilekwa Mukonge has reminded government critics that all foreign trips and I beg your pardon, that all foreign trips being undertaken by President Hakainde Hichilema are in the best interest of the country. Mr. Munkonge says the trips are aimed at cementing bilateral and multilateral relations with other countries as the new administration embarks on national reforms. He says that the president has tried to live up to his promises of reducing expenditure as exhibited by carrying a lean team on his trips, thereby saving public resources. Mr. Munkonge has since urged the people responsible to explain government policies to up their game and defend the intervention being put in place by the government.
You compare to other leaders who were there before, you can see that this man is a Zambian who's looking to develop this country. Because when you look at the delegation of people he moves with, very, very limited number when you compare to others. So even in the previous, when we were in the opposition, we didn't say no, other president, they shouldn't be moving outside the country. Our concern was the delegation, because it was so huge that it was globally a lot of our treasury. But for His Excellency Hakainde Hichilema, when you look at the investment which is coming to Zambia and compare it to how much he has spent with these few trips he has made outside the country, Zambia very soon will be a different country. So far, within 6 months, we have done a lot as a party in power. You can see every Zambian today is smiling because he's able to send their children to school without paying not even a coin. You can see what is happening now in hospital. Very soon, medicine will be flooded in hospitals. These are the things we need to be telling the Zambian people. Let's go out there. Let's not just be in the offices. Let's help our president to tell the Zambian people what this government is doing. That's my appeal. Please, let's help His Excellency the President so that the Zambian people, they know the kind of the leader they voted into office.
Some teachers that were deployed in September 2021 awaiting payroll allocation have asked the Anti-Corruption Commission to investigate the Teaching Service Commission for what they term as corruption. Speaking to the media Thursday, the teachers say despite being found amongst the 1,432 teachers that were recruited, they have not yet been put on payroll, wondering how they were left out. The teachers who have reached out to the Teaching Service Commission have not received any tangible feedback, hence suspecting corrupt practices.
We are seeking an appeal to the Teaching Service, the Ministry of Education and the government at large. We need a clearance on which criteria they use to put teachers on payroll, because you find that
the story of teachers complaining of not being put on payroll is not new in Zambia. The country has seen unprecedented peaceful protests coming from the teachers recruited and not put on payroll. September 4th, 2021, the Teaching Service Commission disclosed that they had recruited 1,432 teachers. Today saw a great number from the 1,432 teachers that were recruited and not put on payroll, storming the Anti-Corruption Commission. They took a letter requesting the commission to investigate why some teachers under 2021 net are not yet on payroll.
As black to say the recruitment which was there was corrupt, and why can't you investigate your officers, the ones who were recruiting teachers? Therefore, we are also asking our peers, our minister and all stakeholders to take interest in this matter, to investigate thoroughly what happened, and the culprits to be brought to book. We are here at SEC. We've also reported the matter to SEC.
Despite the Teaching Service Commission assuring the public that the recruitment process was professionally and transparently done, the teachers think otherwise.
Yes, district, and we have come from very far places. But from September up to date, the Ministry of Education has not put us on payroll. We are just saddened with some statements that are given by other people in the ministry, that is the Teaching Service Commission over-recruited. But what we know, as from the little knowledge that we know, is that the Teaching Service Commission, which is our employer, they sit down with the Ministry of Education to come up with the number of teachers to recruit.
Today, So another group of teachers with the same concerns wanting to seek audience with the Republican president.
Nothing has happened. Every time they're telling us, no, we'll put you on payroll. Every time they're saying, no, we'll put you on payroll. But this time around, we don't want anything. What we want is an official statement to say that they have to put us on payroll this month. We don't want anything else. Mr. President, I kneel down to ask you to see your
Okay, the teacher kneeling down, asking the president to help them.
Yes, we want you to hear our cry today. Please hear our cry today.
About 300 teachers that were recruited last year are not yet on payroll. Blessings Chakwila, Camnet News, Lusaka.
The Higher Education Authority Director General Professor Stephen Smukanga has assured quality education in higher learning institutions to produce qualified and competent graduates who will contribute to the growth of the Zambian economy. Professor Smukanga was responding to some concerns raised by stakeholders on the possible impact of the free education policy in higher education quality output. Professor Smukanga has since called on higher learning institutions to expand their learning strategies to open and distance learning systems aimed at responding to the growing demand in the sector.
Education is believed to be the key to success, an equalizer between the poor and the rich. Therefore, equal access to education by all members of a given society is highly commendable. This is the premise on which the New Dawn government based its move to free the education sector in the country, which has seen an overwhelming response from the communities. However, some stakeholders have registered their concerns, citing a number of issues which include the lack of infrastructure, teacher-pupil ratio, lack of furniture to accommodate the learners. They ask, what impact does the free education have on the quality of the higher education in the country? To answer to these questions, Higher Education Authority Director General, Professor Stephen Smukanga, has assured quality education to be reserved to produce both qualified and competent graduates to contribute to the growth of the country.
Free education is a good policy, and we commend government for that. And we know that it will have an impact on higher education because we shall start having more graduates coming out of secondary schools as we are having now. That will require more basically access or the requirement for higher education, the demand will go up. Even as it is now with 54 private universities, when we did a survey of how many get full certificates every year, how many are absorbed in higher education institutions, including TVETA institutions, we found that we are only getting about 40 to 50% absorbed in these higher education institutions, as it is now, including teacher training colleges. But then, with free education, we see that the demand will even be higher.
Professor Smukanga has since called on the higher learning institutions to expand their learning strategies to open distance learning systems so as to respond to the growth.
So from our point of view, we are, of course, you cannot just put infrastructure as quickly as that. The first measure that could be undertaken, especially in our higher education institutions, is to expand what is known as ODL facility, open and distance learning, where students can enroll in these institutions without coming physically to the institution, by the electronic means, e-learning, even on the phones. You can follow lectures and do assignments. So we are encouraging the institutions, both private and public, to prepare for this situation that is coming, because it's coming, so that we can increase access to higher education for our people to access.
As far as the authority is concerned, the quality of education will not be compromised in any way, and everything is being done to ensure quality education in the country. Alex Chimba, Camnet News in Lusaka.
You're watching Camnet TV Main News. We take our first set of commercials. We'll be back with more after this.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
You know I can take her a bit.
Yes, my dear.
I was thinking of getting you a Bugatti for your birthday.
Really?
I'm quiet. My name is Yana.
Don't worry, my dear. That's why there is insurance.
Insurance?
You heard me.
Not just any kind of insurance, but Savenda General Insurance, a company that offers superior customer service, highly professional and dedicated staff. We are not just any insurance company, but an insurance company that actually pays our claims. We cover, among others, fire, marine, aviation, engineering, agriculture, motor vehicle, and miscellaneous insurance. So, live life to the full, knowing that Savenda General Insurance has got you covered. Savenda General Insurance. Insurance excellence.
We still need more players, yes, because we need to balance the team. We need to have maybe on one position 3 or 4 players.
The third Camnet Stars football trial is on. This time, Camnet Stars are looking for young, talented and skilled soccer players between the age of 18 and 20 years old. Start your lucrative football career in Europe this July. If you know you are one of Zambia's best gifted soccer players, don't waste your time. On Sunday, the 13th March 2022, there will be trials for professional soccer stars. Venue, Kablonga Boys Secondary School grounds. Time, registration 13 hours. Kick-off 14 hours. 100 kwacha non-refundable shall be paid and your birth records must be produced upon registration. Camnet Stars, setting football standards for international market.
Welcome back. We'll continue with the rest of the news. Minister of Agriculture Reuben Piri says government has procured and distributed 113,000 litres of chemicals to various provinces at no cost to farmers in order to help control the spread of armyworms. Speaking when he gave a ministerial statement in Parliament Thursday on the performance of the Farmers Input Support Program of the 2021-2022 farming season, all the 10 provinces and 116 districts across the country reported the infestation of all armyworms in the maize fields. He explains that government has additionally procured and distributed personal protective equipment and sprayers to all the provinces, and government extension staff have stepped up surveillance activities and are providing technical service advice to the farmers. The minister has also revealed that the outbreak of armyworms continues to be a threat to households and national food security, hence urges farmers to remain vigilant and report any outbreak of pests to their nearest extension officers.
Season, all the 10 provinces and all the 116 districts across the country have reported the infestation of the fall armyworm in the maize fields. At the end of January 2022, the armyworm infestation had affected 273 households and a total of 155,010 hectares of maize spread across all the provinces of Zambia. Madam Speaker, in order to help control the spread of armyworms, the government procured and distributed 113,000 litres of chemicals to all the provinces at no cost to the farmers at all.
Madam Speaker, free of charge. In addition, the ministry procured and distributed personal protective equipment and sprayers to all the provinces. Further, our extension staff stepped up surveillance activities and are providing technical advice to the farmers. I wish to emphasize that the outbreak of the armyworms continues to be a threat to household and national food security. I therefore wish to advise all the farmers to remain vigilant and report any outbreak of pests to their nearest extension officer.
Ministry of Tourism and Arts Permanent Secretary Evans Mohango says the Wildlife Act should incorporate climate change factors and stick to domestic international treaties on protecting endangered species if tourism is to be enhanced. Speaking during a stakeholders consultative meeting on amendment in the Wildlife Act, the Permanent Secretary notes that the wildlife is one of the most attractive sub-sector of the tourism industry, yet the act governing it has many gaps. Among the stakeholders were 8 traditional leaders, including Chief Chiwai of Kafiwet District and Chief Nambwalia of Mpika District.
Tourism, along with mining and agriculture, are the major income-generating activities for the country and main contributors to the country's gross domestic product (GDP). This sector, like many others, however, has been negatively affected by many factors, among them the coronavirus pandemic and climate change. As one way of reviving the sector, the Ministry of Tourism and Arts has expressed the need to review the Wildlife Act in order to bring harmonization on how wildlife will be managed in the country. Speaking when officially opening a stakeholders meeting on reforms surrounding the Wildlife Act, Ministry of Tourism and Arts Permanent Secretary Mr. Evans Muhanga says the Wildlife Act should have the voice of major stakeholders, including traditional leaders. Also participating were 8 traditional leaders, among them Chieftainess Muweza of Itech District, Chief Nawalia of Mpika District, and Chieftainess Chiawa of Kafiwe District.
3. To align with the Republican Constitution and the National Parks and Wildlife Policy of 2018. 4. To domesticate international conventions, such as the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wildlife, Fauna and Flora, that is the CITES, and the Convention on Biological Diversity, and to address operational weaknesses that inhibit effective management and protection of wildlife resources.
Meanwhile, Department of National Parks and Wildlife Director Dr. Chuma Simkonda says there is also a need to ensure that locals in wildlife-rich areas benefit.
Our partnership with communities in particular have been very good. Communities have played a very significant role in the management of wildlife. Can I simply say, our wildlife in national parks, even though they do not seem to benefit directly, our wildlife in national parks are or is existing because communities are able to insulate our national parks from poaching. If you go into game management areas that surround national parks, you will find that our wildlife police officers are very, very few.
Speaking at the same event, Zambia Community Resources Board Association President Mr. George TEMBO has also added his voice.
Secondly, we also need to see the provision and the regulation in the Wildlife Act to strengthen or to give mandate to community scouts to be able to perform the duties of law enforcers independently in both national parks and game management areas upon taking a specific training which will give them strength to do that.
The stakeholders have been advised to reach a consensus to see progress in the tourism sector. Zipora Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
In other news, the Small-Scale Farmers Development Agency SAFADA has urged the United Party for National Development Administration to review the Cooperative Act in order to reform cooperatives in the agriculture sector to ensure that these have an impact on the country's economy. In an interview, Agency Director Mr. Boyd Mowe notes that despite government promoting cooperatives, their impact is barely felt on the national level, hence the need to introduce a farmers' bank to ease access to finance. He adds that reviewing the cooperative policy will also help in mitigating poverty among farmers in the rural population.
But all these cooperatives are very inactive. They are not actually very effective. You know, the effectiveness that we are looking at is how the impact of cooperatives on economic and social issues on the ground in the farming community. So you find that farmers are still roaming within poverty circles, but they're forming cooperatives. Already when I was coming here, there were a group of farmers just across here. They're trying to open up an account and this and that. You know, farmers are eager to change. They're eager to work together, but there is no support. Yeah, so that's why we are looking at probably to review the cooperatives and also giving the democratic spirit to the farmers to decide how they can be organized, other than the government coming out to say, okay, farmers, if you want to be assisted, you want support from the government, you have to form up cooperatives. So that seems like we are forcing people to form a cooperative in order to get support from the government. So it must be left open. People should be organized the way they want. Of course, the cooperative is good, but like I mentioned, it's very effective because there is very little support given to cooperatives in rural areas.
The Zambia Community-Based Natural Resources Management Forum, CBNRM, has flagged off the fish harvest in Feira community in Luangwa district. The Zambia CBNRM Forum's work is focused on creating secure livelihood for communities in Zambia through sustainable utilization of natural resources that include forestry, fisheries, water, agriculture, land and wildlife. Speaking during the Harvest Zambia CNBNRM Forum Board Chairperson Dr. Roger Slubilo encouraged the community members in Mburuma and Mpuka chiefdom to take fish farming as a major alternative for livelihoods. He stressed that Luangwa district is one of the major sources of fish due to the presence of Luangwa and Zambezi rivers, hence fish farming should be taken seriously in the improvement and maintenance of local economy of the area. He has since applauded and recommended the local community members for their willingness and safeguarding of the project since the inception. He has since assured the residents of Mburuma and Mpuka chiefdom of the forum's continued support towards the project.
We'll continue to work with the communities here. We've learned lessons from the first project. I think what we need to do going forward is to make sure that we get a correct breed of the fish. But we thank the community a lot because they've worked together. You know, from 6,600 fingerings that we put, we had less than 100 mortality, which means there was cooperation from the communities here. So the community will decide what to do, how much they will sell, and how they will share.
Lero tifuna tiambe tikolole nsomba izi. Nsomba izi ankhala 6 months plus 2 months. Fuka chaonesa munga kuti breed yakaena inzefunira kuti zichiwe harvest mu January. Manje sizinafikepo kukula buno bwino, so taorganiza kuti tegulise. Then community na eve izafuna kuti iguleko nsomba izi iziwe kuti ubwino wakuchita chitukuko wakusunga nsomba izi.
You're watching Camnet TV Main News. We take our second set of commercials. Coming next is sports and international news.
We welcome you to the wonderful world of Savenda Electronics.
At Savenda Electronics, we pride ourselves in manufacturing high-quality electricity and water meters.
Boasting of the first of its kind state-of-the-art manufacturing plant in Zambia, Savenda Electronics manufactures customized smart electricity and water meters of international standards for both the local and international water and electricity utility companies. Our highly computerized factory, run by qualified staff, makes, calibrates, and electronically tests the smart meters to ensure only those meeting customer specifications are delivered to the market. Some of the main features which come with our meters includes notifications about low units, tempering, low battery, and many more customized features. Savenda Electronics provides on and off-site after-sales service and has favorable contract terms for water and electricity utility companies. Savenda Electronics, the real deal.
Team, the trajectory of the business looks very positive, and it looks like we'll be able to launch the... She has so much data.
Mom?
Yes, baby?
It says here, global warming and climate change is caused by the pollution from careless activities of human beings. Wow!
Son, do you know I can turn my phone into a TV remote?
How's that possible?
It's so easy. Check this out.
Be smart, be fast with mega data from Zamtel. Get your 15 GB mobile data for only 100 kwacha, 30 GB mobile data for only 200 kwacha, and your 70 GB LTE data bundle with free Netflix, YouTube, Facebook, and WhatsApp. Visit our Facebook page, website, or service centers countrywide for more information. Zamtel, your digital lifestyle partner.
We still need more players, yes, because we need to balance the team. We need to have maybe on one position 3 or 4 players.
The third Camnet Stars football trial is on. This time, Camnet Stars are looking for young, talented and skilled soccer players between the age of 18 and 20 years old. Start your lucrative football career in Europe this July. If you know you are one of Zambia's best gifted soccer players, don't waste your time. On Sunday, the 13th March 2022, there will be trials for professional soccer stars. Venue, Kablonga Boys Secondary School grounds. Time, registration 13 hours. Kick-off 14 hours. 100 kwacha non-refundable shall be paid, and your birth records must be produced upon registration. Camnet Stars, setting football standards for international market.
Welcome back. Now getting into our international item. The Congolese opposition is boycotting a dialogue organized by the government ahead of a local and legislative election in the Central African country. A coalition of parties dismisses the meeting, which starts Thursday in Owando in the country's north, as a stunt meant to divert attention from the various crises plaguing the country. Still in international news, in a medieval town in Poland, a few hours' drive from Ukraine, volunteers from across Europe are preparing aid convoy bound for border. Volunteers are working against the clock to pack and distribute as much aid into Ukraine as they can, as organizers worrying Belarusian forces allied with Russia could soon block their supply lines. And some volunteers are crossing the other way back into Ukraine to provide humanitarian relief or to take up arms against Russia. Here's a roundup of international news.
The Congolese opposition is boycotting a dialogue organized by the government ahead of local and legislative elections in the Central African country. A coalition of parties dismissed the meeting, which starts Thursday in Owando in the country's north, as a stunt meant to divert attention from the various crises plaguing the country. We must not think about what Owando should be between. Rather, we need a real dialogue that brings together all the sons and daughters of the Congo. Last March, President Denis Sassou Nguesso and his Congo Labour Party controversially won re-election. He's been in power for a total of over 36 years. The government has defended the dialogue as necessary to achieve consensus ahead of the legislative vote to be held in 5 months. The opposition has demanded a structured dialogue which addresses power sharing and the treatment of political prisoners.
In a medieval town in Poland, a few hours' drive from Ukraine, in the courtyard of an old church, volunteers from all over Europe are preparing aid convoys bound for the border. Less than a week into the Russian invasion, this spontaneous effort aims to help displaced and desperate people inside Ukraine.
They don't have anything. They don't have anything to eat, anywhere to sleep, nothing to fight with.
Volunteers are working against the clock to pack and drive as much aid into the country as they can. Organizers worry Belarusian forces allied with Russia could soon block their supply lines. This effort is the beginning of something bigger. The Polish government plans to use Lublin as a hub.
Ukraine is finding it hard to win attention in southern Africa. Kyiv's ambassador to South Africa says the region retains a lot of sympathy for Moscow, dating from the apartheid era. In the 1970s and 80s, the Soviet Union supported several anti-colonial movements in southern Africa.
There is a very strong sentiment of South Africans about Russia being USSR and being very assistant in struggling against apartheid and colonialism. The only thing that we are forgetting that there were 15 countries within the USSR, and a lot of current management of the country was studying in Ukraine as well. We lost this opportunity to speak this narrative loudly after 1991 because Russia took all the legacy of this on its own, and we were trying to build our state. We were developing our economy, our relations in the region, and Africa obviously was not first in priority.
Accounts of discrimination and maltreatment of African nationals trying to flee Ukraine have also hurt the country's image. Ukraine's security forces stopped Africans, mostly students, from getting on trains in favor of citizens and other European nationals.
They are now giving the way only to Ukrainians. There are different procedures. They are still in action for the documentation. And for Ukrainians, as far as I know, it was decided, at least by Polish government, that they are just letting them in. Don't forget that in Ukraine we have quite a number of illegal foreigners staying there, and obviously this is a major concern for European Union.
On Wednesday, South Africa, Angola, Namibia, Lesotho, Mozambique and Zimbabwe abstained from a UN vote condemning Russia's attack on Ukraine.
Stop Russian aggression. We now get into our sports news. The match between Camnet Stars and the Yasa Football Academy was engulfed in confusion after both teams accused each other of using overaged players. Wednesday, second match 2022, Camnet Stars played a goalless draw in a match up against Yasa in the Football Association of Zambia FAS LUSAKA Province Zone 2 2021-2022 season under-19 league game. However, the second half delayed after concerns of age cheating were raised.
Football, a uniting sporting activity that brings people together. It has become one of the biggest sports events in the world due to its mass following. Since its inception in the early 1863 to date, a number of historical moments have been created. The game is however not short of controversy such as poor officiating and age cheating, which has been one of the major setbacks of the game in Africa, and Zambia is not an exception. NAPSA Stars head coach Perry Mutapa has shared his views after the game against Moza United.
Let football win. It's not about me and Masauso. It's about football. But what has lost today is football. It's not me or Masauso who has won. Moza has won, yes. NAPSA we have lost. If I was going to win, it wasn't going to be paid, it was going to be NAPSA. But what is losing in Zambia is football, especially here that we hate that here it's always unfair for visiting teams. And today we have seen it for ourselves.
Like that is not controversy enough. In 2018, CAF discovered that certain players who were to participate at the Under-17 AFCON qualifiers in Tanzania were ineligible due to age cheating. Countries like Kenya and Uganda were affected the most after the results from the magnetic resonance imaging MRI test were released. Recently, first Zone 2 Under-19 rescheduled game between Camnet Stars and Yasa Football Club. The game saw the second half being delayed due to complaints from the Camnet Stars technical bench against Yasa, who wanted to use ineligible players above the age of 19.
In the first half, we didn't play. We started at a roll late, and although our friends, they used big boys who are not even under 19. Yeah, so we were panicking in the first half, but second half, we pick it up.
We can't use the players who are playing Division 4 to bring them in the under 19. Of course, we were training them yesterday, the under 19. We knew that we are playing the game today. But I heard them talking about Division 4. I don't know. Otherwise, these are the players that play for the under 19, the same league.
In the same vein, a soccer analyst has also noted the impact of age cheating on the game of football.
The major reason is that these players want to take undue advantage of their opponents and win trophies, win games by cheating, especially at the junior level where this thing is happening. And when such a thing happens, really, you really can't blame the players themselves, because most of these players will come from the rural setups where birth certificates are very, very scarce and rare to find. So this is where the MRI scan comes in very handy to try and correct this particular problem. Then I think on top of that, we also find that these players are the ones that get into retirement at a very, very early age of about 35 years. Somebody's talking about retirement. It's basically because of where they are coming from. They had cheated on their age, and it can't take them anywhere at this point.
It is therefore hoped that these issues be attended to bring sanity in the football industry. Alex Chimba, Camnet News in Lusaka.
Well, that sports item brings us to the end of Camnet TV main news, but before we go, here's our headlines once again. The Teaching Service Commission reported to the Anti-Corruption Commission. PEP President Sean TEMBO charges that the police is still unprofessional under the UPND. Block makers puzzled over the anticipated hike in cement prices. And in international news, Congolese opposition SNUB government-backed dialogue. And in sports, FAS Lusaka Province Zone 2 2021-2022 season Under-19 League games engulfed in age cheating. Here's our Camnet verse of the day, and it's coming from the book of Isaiah 55 verse 8 to 9, and it reads, "My thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." Thank you for watching. I am Precious Mzea Sakaleji. Pleasant viewing.